Welcome to a new edition of Raw Docs, the crime edition, where we're going to focus on the Rainey Street Ripper or Lady Bird Lake serial killer, right? Or the missing bodies at Lady Bird Lake. And we investigated this about 6 months ago, and we really made some traction and then kind of ran into some roadblocks. But right before, I think the last things that we posted was on Jonathan Honey.
Yes.
And I find that case was probably had the most, I guess, evidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Best timeline.
Yeah. Best timeline.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. So in Jonathan Honey's case, who is he? And tell me exactly who he was and kind of that timeline.
Okay. Jonathan Honey was an All-American kid, Eagle Scout. Employed fisherman, outdoorsman, good friend, best guy, flies in from the East Coast for a bachelor party, unfamiliar with the area. He's just, from everything that I can have read about him online, talked to individuals about, he was just the kind of guy you'd want to be friends with. But what was so interesting about this one was this was the first one that we had looked at that really had a significant, at this point he was here, at this point he was there. This is where he went to the water's edge. This is when he went in the water, where he went in the water at. And then we find some discrepancies in what his iPhone and iPhone watch were telling us.
Right. So for the audience out there, take us back to the night of the crime. What kind of happened in his story? What was kind of like a lot of them? He was partying, left the bar, and then disappeared. But there was a lot of video in this case.
Lots of video.
I mean, he was captured probably, about 20 times?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And time-stamped every single time. Right. So he leaves Rainey Street, where I think he was number 11 of 10 guys, including the groom that was here for this. And I always found it weird. He walks away from the party end of Rainey. There's a 2-block area, and one's got a grocery store and a little pizza joint that closes down at 11 o'clock. But the party zone is the upper end, the northern end. He walks away
to get something to eat.
Yeah, and sits down, and even a witness in a food truck said he was hammered.
Right.
And
there was no doubt about that.
No doubt about it.
He was at a bachelor party. He was hammered.
He was hammered.
Okay.
So he sits next to this tree for a little while. His buddy's seen on the video, sitting him down. He goes get something to eat, sits down by the tree, gets up, goes across the street, and then starts wandering down towards Lady Bird Lake or the Colorado River.
Which would be south of the party district or Rainey Street district. And towards Lady Bird Lake, correct?
And yes. And it's not, you've been down there with me. It's 400 yards in the dark. I mean, you've got some ambient lighting, but here's a guy that he doesn't know where he's at, other than he took an Uber with his buddies and they went down to Rainey Street and they're partying. And he just wanders off. And I always found that odd. Why would he do that? But he walks into an apartment parking garage and wanders around and all captured on video. And then goes around the south end of this apartment complex. It's a affluent area.
Right.
And he finds this treacherous flight of stairs. It's the only... It's the best way I can describe it. It's treacherous.
Well, we went down there, right?
Yeah.
And we filmed it, and I would say, I mean, first of all, I've lived here for a number of years in Austin, Texas, and, avid runner.
Yeah.
I have never seen this particular staircase. I mean, it's hidden.
It is. It's surrounded by trees, and you've got it's concrete, but it goes down 6 stairs, flat landing. Down 6 stairs, flat landing. Down 6 stairs, flat landing.
It kind of an angle like this. The stairs aren't gradual. They're pretty steep, and then it levels off. Pretty steep, levels off.
And they've just recently replaced the handrails.
Right.
So who knows what was there before. There you can see that there was something there, but at night...
It's pitch black. I mean, I don't even know how you could see. It was hard to find those particular stairs in the daytime.
Yeah.
But at night, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we won't say her name, but she supplied a friend of Jonathan Honey's really, once she knew that we were kind of working the case and on the case, she, I mean, I don't know what she does for a living, but she is really organized, and she had a whole spreadsheet, time of day. I mean, she had it all calculated. And why did she have this so specific? And we're getting into this. She was tied to his iCloud account, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So she loves Jonathan like a brother.
Right.
And
they were roommates, correct?
Roommates in college, grew up together. Jonathan's father is, he's in the government. That's why you didn't hear a whole lot about this. He's more in the intelligence, more clandestine intelligence area. So, not going to be on camera, not going, so this kind of went away, unfortunately. But so she wanted to know what happened to her friend. And she's reading this police report that her mom's talking to the police, Austin Police Department. She's talking to the police department, and she's comparing the data that's coming back from his phone going, right. And so she starts mapping it out. She starts putting it on a spreadsheet. And, unfortunately, with law enforcement, when families and friends, close friends get involved, it allows the police departments or investigators to open a door going, you've tainted the case now. You've talked to a witness, before me. So now the whole thing is blown. And so they have a tendency to pass it off on the family or the friends that are actually probably,
have a vested interest.
Yeah, that's right.
Just knowing the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he, his time of death was recorded by APD at what? 2 o'clock in the morning, correct? Somewhere around there.
APD says he went into the water, I believe at 1:04 a.m.
So backing up, partying all night, leaves, goes to get something to eat. Something draws him down the street, whatever that may be, to go into the dark, the abyss, find staircases, and then expires or, goes into the water about an hour later, correct?
Yeah.
So tell me what happens. What is the smoking gun when he goes into the water?
The smoking gun when he goes in the water is the Apple Watch records a loud decibel reading, a loud boom. So that's not, it was like 114 decibels. That's like a jackhammer or
a Harley Davidson.
Or we did a test on that chainsaw.
Yeah.
That's not a
car door slamming.
It's a gunshot.
Right.
Now he didn't have one, but I'm saying it's a big noise. It's not something that you just. What was that?
And do you remember the duration? Wasn't it a couple minutes of loud noise?
For sure, no. The loud noise was just a short period of time.
Okay.
And APD says, "Oh, that's him
struggling
in the water, and that watch slapping the water."
Right.
Now, his iPhone is in his pocket. So the minute it saturated, it should have shut down, which would have stopped transmitting information to the watch. But an hour, literally to the minute, an hour later at 2:04 a.m., he shows an aerobic level heartbeat that just falls off a cliff, indicating time of death.
So the time of death, according to APD, doesn't match up to data.
Correct.
I mean, which is, you can't compromise that, right? There's no way. And so he goes down there, you hear the loud noise. They brush it off as he's struggling.
Yep.
But something caused that loud noise prior to his death, correct?
Correct.
So, and again, this guy was... he's not a transient, he's a professional guy in his 30s.
Yeah.
And he was an Eagle Scout, right?
Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout, avid swimmer. I think he was on the high school swimming team. Yeah, avid fisherman. So he can swim.
Right.
Okay.
Now let's tie the tests in that you and I performed.
Right.
we go to the very spot where they say he went into the water. Now, he was just shy of 6 feet. I think he was 5'11".
Mm-hmm.
I'm 6'4". I went in the water, and I went out, I believe it was 12 feet before I hit the drop off and was up to my chin. So literally, if he fell in the water, and he was drunk, we're not saying he wasn't.
Right.
The water was cold enough when I went in, let alone when he went in November.
Mm-hmm. It would have shocked you away.
It would have been a shock. It would have been a joke.
That's why you take a cold shower.
All he had to do, now he would have been a drunk, but he would have been a wide awake drunk.
Right.
He should have just been able to turn around. He's an Eagle Scout. He knows direction. And I took 2 steps and lifted my leg and stepped up on a rock, and I was in ankle deep water. So how does this guy wind up 21 feet out and 17 feet down? With the phone in his pocket and his watch transmitting information an hour after the APD says he went in the water.
And just to paint the picture again, and I don't know where this ties in, but describe the environment next to that body of water down this staircase.
Sure. Once you get to the bottom of the stairway, which let's just bring that
I don't know
into
how
play.
you could have made it down
I don't
there
know how
that
drunk
right.
in the dark he didn't fall down that and break his neck. But he gets to the bottom, and he's got enough wherewithal that he takes his earbuds out of his ears and sets them on the step. So they located where he went in from those earbuds. So then he goes over, supposedly throws up on the edge of the water, falls in, boom, he drowns. But here's this boom. An hour later, we've got a heartbeat that's aerobic and drops off the cliff to nothing, indicating time of death. But that area, I went down there in broad daylight. There's a running trail, let's say from ground level to where the running trail is. It's going to be about 25, 30 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
It's wooded, shrubs, brush. While I was down there, I was approached by a homeless guy.
Which was creepy.
Yeah,
right,
it was creepy. Which is why in Texas we all carry guns. But there's a trail through those woods in either direction. One leads out about 75 yards and one leads 100 yards down the runs parallel with the upper level running path. So I could literally kill someone, rob them if I wanted to, or just kill them because I felt like it, go down that path, come up on another completely different part of that trail. And I was standing there in broad daylight, and there must have been 30 people run by on that trail. Not one of them spotted me.
Yeah, we were filming down there.
Yeah.
And nobody even looked. And we were trying to kind of be loud, right?
Yeah.
And there was, what I found, not only did it look kind of like a drug den, I mean, this is, just to paint the picture, you come down the stairs, and then it opens up to what looks like a transient camp.
Yeah.
I mean, there's needles, there's condoms, there's beer bottles. I mean, and this is in the heart of Austin, Texas. I can't believe that they haven't cleaned this up.
Yeah.
Trail leading west, a trail leading east, and then you have the stairs going back up to where you came from. We only want to deal with the facts here.
Yeah.
We're not going to deal on conspiracies, but the video. Now, unlike previous victims, there was Martin's case that you saw a couple of videos going through, but maybe like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
In this case, he was caught about 20 times. So you and it's kind of chilling. But what I found is what led him down that path, but previous, it almost seems like he was being followed at certain points, especially in the parking garage, correct?
Even the police know now, so people kind of have a sense of it. Your viewers, you can rent these scooters.
Like a bird. These scooters, right?
Yeah. I'm too old, I ain't getting on one. But you can just swipe your credit card, which is an electronic fingerprint.
Right.
There was a guy that was even notated by the police when he was down on that south end of Rainey, right before he made that turn to go. They kept
Circling
figure eight
around.
back, coming, never approached him. And you know, that's one of the things I struggle with in the cases is that I want to see somebody. I want somebody that I can go after. And right now, we've looked at a lot of video. We've looked at a lot of victims, tons of victims, and we just haven't found anybody that's. I mean, it appears they're being lured, definitely being drugged, but we just haven't got that one suspect yet.
Right, just clear as day. Hey, that's that person, and there they are again. Right, it's shadows,
which is scary.
It's scary, right? So he goes in that parking garage where it appears that he's followed, and then crosses the street where it looks like he's followed again by a person that is walking. Correct, by that pizza parlor. Okay, there's just to give you an image, and then there's a very where professionals live, just a high rise, right? Just right there. He crosses the street and then goes across grass, goes down these stairs, and then disappears. What is APD? What is their response? Just again,
accidental drowning.
Just accidental drowning.
Yeah,
and they couldn't explain that missing hour. What caused that?
They're
from the
saying
loud noise to time of death.
They're
correct?
saying it was a time difference between
that's
East
right.
Coast time and Central time.
Right. That's correct. That's right. So the person who supplied us with this, I mean, she has a great timeline that we'll share. I'll put various pieces of video. I'll probably maybe even cover the podcast. She had other information though was pretty alarming in the fact that not to get ahead of ourselves, but her theory is these things are seasonal. That some of these deaths, accidental or not, or that they're almost seasonal. You'll get 3 or 4 here, and then you'll get 3 or 4 in Chicago.
Seasonal and geographic.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you'll get 3 or 4. Let's say you'll get 3 or 4 in November, or around that Christmas period of time. Then it goes to Chicago.
Yep.
And then it comes back here around spring break, around South by Southwest, and then goes back up there, and then comes back and keeps going back and forth. And I think Boston kind of fits in there a little bit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So where did they go with the investigation? Okay, so just so the viewers have a full picture, is when is he reported missing? When do they finally go, oh man, he's gone?
Okay, so the guys figure that his buddies all figure that he's just grabbed an Uber and gone back to the Airbnb. So they do the same thing. They go home, go to bed. 10 o'clock the next morning, they're hungover and hungry. They go to his room and he's not there.
Right.
So they rush down there, but the actual report didn't happen until about 2:40 in the afternoon, when one of them flagged down a police officer. Now, at this point, they're talking with our lady friend in Virginia.
Right.
They're talking with anybody that can give them information about where
So
he
it's just
might
a
be.
missing person. Nobody's discovered his body.
Yeah, nobody's discovered anything.
Okay.
And
then they begin the search, correct?
now they're 2:40. They've been up and down the street asking for video, doing all this stuff. Now they're worried. Now they're worried. So they flag down a PD officer and they make the report of a missing person. And they get the boat with the sonar out, and
That's right.
I think it was 2 days later they found him 17 feet down.
So his body
face
hadn't
down.
floated up yet.
No.
And I'm not going to begin to say when it would, but could you kind of, let's say I drown and I go down there. What happens to my body typically?
Okay, so part of the drowning process is you gasping for air. Your lungs are going to fill up. That's literally how you drown. So now you're more solid. So what happens is when you float to the bottom over about a, let's say, 5-day period, you begin to, for lack of a better term, you ferment. And by day 6, you start rising up. By day 7 or 8, you're on the surface.
Which has happened in some of the cases where you had missing persons, and then eventually their body, a kayaker comes by and they discover. So they actually went out there, and there are images of. They discover his body. It's how deep of water?
17 feet.
17 feet.
21 feet out, 17 feet down. And you remember, I stepped out about 12 feet and dropped down to where I was having to tread water.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, we did that in...
It was about February,
right?
It was
about, February, March.
Yeah, around
something
there.
Like that.
Right.
So the water's still chilly, but it's Austin. It never gets too cold.
Mm-hmm.
November's a different story. November, it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the water, the temperature in the water's gone up 15 degrees, and it took my breath away. So I know it did his. But he is face down, wallet, credit card, watch, nothing missing. All on his person. And
which is in some of the cases you had that to where it's not a robbery,
right?
It's almost like a thrill killing, correct?
Yeah.
Any damage, any bruising? Didn't he have
he had a contusion under, I believe it was his right eye,
which they explained that happened when he fell in the water or down the steps.
Or down the stairs, right? Or again, not wanting to speculate. It could have been a knockout blow.
Well, I would bet it is a knockout blow. I mean, but But again, we're going to do with the facts, right? Yeah. So he is discovered a couple of days later, correct?
Yep.
Where does the investigation go at that point?
Done.
Closed.
Pretty much. Accidental drowning. They've got him on video, and people can look this up statistically. In the United States, there are 3,000 drownings a year. Of those 3,000, less than 1% are ever attributed to anything other than accidental.
So it's a good scapegoat.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you prove otherwise now unless you had an eyewitness in this case? And the other case we're going to talk about here in a minute, there were eyewitnesses, but let's just stay on Jonathan Honey just for a little bit. Any progress with that? I mean, once it's closed, I mean, can it be reopened? Can they reinvestigate it?
Yes, but here's the but. But you will have to introduce substantial evidence to get them to reopen the case.
It can't just be a upset family member, correct?
No.
Did the family hire a private investigator in this case?
Not in this case.
Not in this case.
Not in this case.
Now, wasn't there a strange witness of some sort, or there was?
No, not. Now there isn't another one. There was a kid that was working in a food truck that saw him at the beginning up on Rainey Street, but there's just so many things about Jonathan that just didn't ring true. How does an Eagle Scout fall into waist deep water and not turn around and walk out? What's that big boom? How is his Apple Watch transmitting information if his Apple phone is in his pocket and he's underwater?
And what produced that sound?
Yeah.
I mean, he's hundreds of yards from the district.
And you and I were down there. And there's a short of me standing going, here's what you hear.
Right.
And it's nothing. There's no sound. So
the only way we duplicated that is getting your Harley and me putting my Apple Watch, about a couple of feet from the exhaust pipe.
Right.
And and that's the only way that we could register those decibels.
Mm-hmm.
So, how tragic.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, gosh. When you first approached me about Rainey Street, what I saw on the on social media was that it's somebody down here killing gays, and somebody's after all the gay, some homophobe in Austin is down here killing gay people. And I went, it's just such a trashy subject. I'm really not that interested.
Right.
But then I got to looking. I found one guy that was homosexual. One.
Right.
all these guys are athletic. Now,
And they all kind of fit a profile.
they fit a profile.
Right.
And then
Mid 30s,
Right.
early 20s,
Yeah.
professional.
I mean, one's a power lifter, one's a marathon runner
Right.
that raised himself, terrified of the water, but all of a sudden he takes his shoes off, sticks a kitchen knife in the ground, commits suicide for a divorce that's been going on for a year and a half.
Which is very, I mean, again, the earbuds.
Yeah,
I mean, why take those out?
right.
I mean, it's just bizarre. It's
Yeah.
almost like they leave, like a signature.
Something behind.
They leave something
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good segue to the next person that you started to look into after Jonathan Honey.
Yeah.
Tell me. So let's talk about Jason John.
Jason John.
Okay.
Jason John. Jason, early 30s at the time.
Professional. What would it?
Very professional, very well educated, not an athlete, scared of water.
Okay. He's scared of water.
Doesn't know how to swim. Yeah, he's scared of water. He played.
Well, he's kind of like the subject where they stuck the.
Yeah,
knife.
Santiago. Yeah,
Right.
So
Santiago.
Jason doesn't know how to swim, scared of the water. He's partying with two friends up on Rainey Street at the 512 Cantina.
Okay.
That's the last time he's captured on video, and that was at 2:01 a.m. So the bar's closing down.
Pretty close to Honey's.
Very
MO.
close.
Right, yeah.
Very close. He leaves, walks to an area that's almost 1,000, and I mapped it out, almost 1,000 yards from where this bar is.
Okay. And again, south of that district, correct? Okay.
Now, he's a pot smoker.
Okay.
He's a drinker. But he's one of the only autopsies that I've gotten that has tested positive for GHB, the date rape drug. He gets down there over two times the legal limit. And there's three homeless guys that according to their statements, Jason walks up to the water's edge, throws up, falls in the water, submerges. And then this homeless guy jumps up, runs into the water, searches for him for a couple of minutes, then runs to the Holiday Inn up by I-35 access road and finds a police officer working security, tells him what happened, and they make a phone call to 911. And that phone call was made at 2:16 a.m. So this entire drunken walk, 1,000 yards, throwing up, falling in, being searched for, running to get the cop, all goes down in 15 minutes. And here's where I think I hit the radar. The timeline doesn't make sense to me at all. It's too fast.
Mm-hmm.
There's something wrong here. So I come down and I do a timed distance test. I've got my roller wheel and I've got my stopwatch, and at a brisk walk, because I don't want to guess. I want to be faster.
Right.
So as fast as I can walk, how much time will it take me to get from 512 Cantina to where he went in the water to up to the front of the Holiday Inn?
Which you'd have to make a couple of turns. Is he from here?
Yes.
Okay, so he's from here. So
He
maybe
knows
there's
the area.
Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
he knows the area. So I take the shortest. There's a little dog leg where you don't have to go. So I take the shortest path, and at a brisk walk, stone cold sober in broad daylight, took me 15 minutes and 43 seconds.
Okay. I mean, which adds up a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
a little bit.
But minus the
Now add 2 times the
throwing
legal
up,
limits.
right?
Dark as hell, because you, again, for those that don't know it, there's no lights down there.
No. And that has been with the victim's family, that has been something that they've been trying to request. Some fencing, some lighting.
Yeah.
For God's sake, some cameras.
Oh, you're gonna love this when we get down there. They've got this horseshit 2-rail cedar fence because they want to keep it
Right.
Keep Austin weird.
Right.
That wouldn't stop anybody.
Right.
And now they've got a sign hanging on it with an opening in the fence that says, water past this point, drowning is possible.
That covers your ass, right?
Yeah, and there,
Right.
you know, Tom, there's the thing that just drives me nuts. You've got 27 now?
I believe, yeah.
I think it's 27 people over about a 6.5, 7 year period of time in a 1 mile stretch that have drowned. At what point do you put a patrol down there just on bikes, on horseback? You've got 30 police officers on foot, on bikes, and on horseback on 6th Street.
Right.
And
that's probably a low estimate.
On
a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
It's almost probably, but you know, and you know, dirty six is what they call it.
Yeah.
You go down there, you kind of expect that something may go down.
Something may go down.
Not in Rainey Street. I mean, well, maybe now.
Right. Well, and I guess that's my point. And I'm not even saying the city should acknowledge, you know, they put some bullshit solar lights that light up the base. I mean, literally cast light out about like that. It's not bright at all.
Oh, yeah, we've been down there. I mean, it's hard to pull light. This is a photography, a camera thing. It's hard to pull light from the light that is generated.
Well, you were down there one night and a guy walked out of the bushes.
Yeah. I mean, it was just...
And he's right there on you.
I mean, right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I don't know if he was living down there, but boy.
So when does the city say 27 lives, and some of them are victims of crime, some of them are actual suicides, some of them are accidental drownings. But you've got 27 in a 1 mile stretch of river. They're not all that way. And there's some real questionable toxicology reports involved.
And this guy, along with Jonathan Honey, falls into the most recent batch, right? I think it started again in 2022, extended to maybe 2024. So it was, I think this guy was what, 2023? Is that correct?
I think 23.
Okay.
And like Jonathan Honey, technologically proficient. He liked his iPhone. He liked his Apple Watch. He liked his earbuds. And like Jonathan Honey, we have a discrepancy on when they say he went into the water and what his phone shows.
So did you get a chance? You have that report? Okay. So what does the report say as far as devices going off or time of death and all that?
The report shows that that he, according to APD, went into the water at approximately 2:09. First thing I'm going to tell you, from where he was to where he went in the water took a hell of a lot more than 8 minutes.
Right. Not a chance.
But
right?
but let's give him a little fudge area. So let's say he goes in at 2:13. 2 minutes, or back it up, 2:11. So at 2:11, he goes in the water, phone in his pocket, throws up apparently all over himself, according to the witness, on the ground, falls in, submerges. Guy gets up, homeless guy runs over, jumps in the water, and tries to find him. How long? Doesn't really say in the report. Was it 60 seconds? Was it 120 seconds? But a minute or two.
But he's not successful in finding.
He's not successful in finding.
Okay. So he sunk immediately.
Yeah, he's sunk. Yeah,
okay.
He's gone. So he gets out and he runs to the Holiday Inn, which is about another 45 yards away from where.
Maybe 100 at the most.
No, it's about 45 because I distanced it out.
Then it is 45.
Yeah, but it's cattywampus. That's a Texas term, by the way. It's cattywampus. You have to run through these bushes and around the back side of the building to the front, and you're there. But the timing doesn't match what's on his Apple Watch. He shows to have a heartbeat of 98 beats a minute, almost aerobic, 26 minutes after he submerged.
Similar to Jonathan, I'm not going to hold you to this, but didn't Jonathan Honey have a spike in heart rate and then flatline? Similar to this guy.
Yeah.
Any loud noise, anything going on at that? Oh, all right. Tell me about it.
His mom gets into his iCloud account and sends the information, the data, to the police department, to the detective, in April of 23, and says, there is a loud noise.
Registered?
And then read the data. Yeah. So we've got the same, but now, here's the weird part. We've got 3 homeless witnesses that claim to be within feet of him and searching for him and can't find him. But again, stone cold sober, broad daylight. It took me 15 minutes and 42 seconds to walk that path at a brisk walk. So if I'm drunk, in the dark, stumbling around, it just doesn't happen.
It just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
With a lot of them, it doesn't add up. What happened in that case? Oh, so what does the report say? Accidental drowning again, right?
Right.
So
Accidental.
No investigation again.
The investigation, no, there's not, but they blame the mother. So
What do you mean? Oh, okay.
Mom goes out and hires. Mom's affluent. She's a psychologist. She goes out and hires a local private investigator who starts going down there, finds these 3 homeless guys, and starts interviewing them. And in the process of that, is taking them food, taking them money. So the police counter by saying
it's tainted.
It's tainted. Now they're telling you which they have a valid point. A private investigator should have known better than that. But they have a valid point. Or more specifically, now they have a valid reason to stop. But there's contradictions in what they say in April and what they say in October of 23. In April of 23, the GHB we had mentioned, he's one of the only ones that tested positive for it. At the mother's behest, a separate toxicology is done with a private company. And they say, yep, GHB.
Well, just to remind the audience out there, not all of them had the luxury, or the family had the luxury, or, had to go and request one. Correct. Or get an additional one.
Correct.
Why is that? Because
they have to pay for it.
Well, not just that, but my point is because the most recent case, but in the past cases, they were quick to say, you need to cremate this body. You need to get rid of the evidence.
Every one of them.
Every one of them. I mean, we're not just talking 5. We're talking the first 13, 14, 15.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, every one of them said. And
the medical examiner called the family and said, hey, you need to cremate it. It's an ugly death.
Right.
You don't want to have an open casket.
And I've seen people that have drowned and been underwater for it. It is. It's not how I would personally want to find my son or my dad or him to find me. I wouldn't want that. And so I can understand the human side going, are you sure that's what you want to do? But in this case, almost every family member we talked to said, you need to have them cremated.
Right.
It wasn't a suggestion. It was almost a directive.
Right. Correct. Which is just
out of bounds.
Out of bounds. So where did this private investigator, where did they take it? I mean, what
well, at that point,
they were shut down.
They're done. Yeah, they're done. The private investigator had suggested that this Christopher guy that was supposedly in the water may have had something to do with his death. Now, let's back up to that watch again. And the timeline takes me 15 minutes, 42 seconds. But if I had another 25 minutes and I had 2 buddies, and I ran to call 911 and say he went into water there, but I know there's a trail.
Was his wallet missing, phone, anything? No?
No.
So if you're transient, wouldn't you take that stuff?
If I had cash, I would. I may not take a credit card.
Right.
You know, because now every credit cards have got passcodes and.
Right.
You know, here's something else that was just weird. Jason was found in about 8 feet of water.
Yeah, in that area, it's a little bit more shallow than
Yeah,
where
it
Jonathan
is
Honey,
because there's a boat ramp there.
Right.
There are for launching the kayaks and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's in 8 feet of water, and he had been under 8 days. He's vertical, so he had fermented, and his body came up like that. So he's vertical. His head's only about a foot.
Why wouldn't it float up, Mike? I mean, don't they bloat?
Another day or two, and he could have. He was not athletic, so his body fat was a higher level. He was a little chunky. He was about to pop the surface. There was no doubt about that. But what I found weird about it is that they said that he had a brownish green substance on his clothing that would be consistent with vomit. And I thought, how does vomit throw up on my clothes? I fall into water. How does vomit stay? Because fish and just, you know.
I'm surprised the shirt was still, it wouldn't be kind of starting to dissolve or stained.
It's
not crystal clear water down there, right?
Right.
Okay.
But it's consistent.
Right.
And those are the things. So, okay, it's consistent, but he's been down 8 days. Now he's vertical. So at one point he was horizontal.
Let me ask you a question. When was he reported missing? That night?
That night.
So
within
that
minutes of him going in the water.
They couldn't get a boat. They couldn't do the sonar. Why did it take them 8 days? I mean, if you've got a couple of transients going, hey, it went right there, wouldn't you just get a diver? And
Well, you would think so. But, of course, it's nighttime. They did get the boat out the next day.
And couldn't find him?
They couldn't find him.
If this was victim 1 or 2, I could maybe see that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at this point, look, again, we're dealing with facts, but it doesn't seem like anybody really wants to find any truth or
whether they think I'm a crackpot or an asshole, I don't know. But I call because I want to talk to the detective because now I've got similarities between Jonathan Honey, Jason John. The how can you dismiss? Because keep in mind, Jonathan, it's a time difference.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the same time zone. He lives here in Austin. And now I've got 25 minutes, 26 minutes of him registering a heartbeat when his phone was supposedly in the water with that watch.
Now, haven't you done, did you do a public request or anything like that? Did you reach out? Where did that, I'm leading you into it.
Yeah. So, okay. Initially when I said, okay, this is worth looking at, there's something going on. My first step that I take is I want the autopsy reports. I don't care about the police reports. Mm-hmm. Let's get the autopsy reports. So I contact, through an online account, I contact the Travis County medical examiners, and I get the reports in a matter of 2, 3, 5, 10 days at the most. Mm-hmm. Then when I had about 13 or 14 of them, I went back and I started contacting Austin Police Department and requesting a public information request for this incident. So now I'm more looking for the incident report. And they blocked me on getting any of the pictures. I had to do a different, I probably would have taken an attorney at that point, and I'm sure they were horrific. Didn't want them floating out there. But they blocked me from that, but they sent me the reports. 4, 5, 10 business days at the most. So I make this phone call. And I've got the police report, I've got the autopsy report, and I've got inconsistencies. One guy, the same police officer in April of 23, is saying GHB metabolizes in the body very quickly. And that is true if you're alive, not if you're dead. Then he turns around and he says, well, GHB is naturally produced in small amounts after death. And that is also true. The problem is, how do you determine whether it was a natural produced GHB or an ingested drug? And the answer is, based on the amounts, you can't. So again, he wasn't drugged. It was naturally produced. So which is it? Did he get fed GHB and it metabolized in his body quickly, or did it produce it after the fact? They don't know.
So we've looked at a few cases, and we've really kind of dove in and talked about roughly about 5, right? 6. Yeah. Not to put you on the spot, what does your gut tell you what's going on here? If you had to make a theory.
Wow. Yeah.
And this will probably change. But today.
Yeah, today. Today, I would say that whether it is a serial killer or a serial drugger, somebody that just for the thrill of it, or somebody selling drugs, because we found a combination of stuff that's like a cheap cocaine, but can also create disorientation and hallucinations in 40% of the autopsies.
That's right. That's correct. Amount. And it was a kind of a weird combination.
Yeah, it's a combination. Gabapentin.
Right.
Which an anti-seizure, but it's coupled with an antipsychotic, an anti-schizophrenia medication. So
is that kind of a sedative to calm you in any sense? Not that quick.
Yeah, it could. And here's the other part. Of that 40%, probably 15%, 20% of that 40% had isopropanol, rubbing alcohol.
That's right.
And guess what that does? Makes you throw up. So if I give you enough in a liquid form of the first two mixed with isopropanol, and it makes you sick and disoriented and hallucinating, like, let's say, Mitch Gutierrez, powerlifter, playing hopscotch down the street, bruise on the back of his head that they said he fell off the I-35 bridge. Takes an hour and a half. I mean, there's just so many.
Each one of them, though.
Every one of them.
Each one of them. I mean, the suicide with the knife and he smoked too much K2 and decided to kill himself, even though he was afraid of water.
Right.
And about to graduate with a lottery ticket.
180 a year.
Right.
Out of the gate.
And this guy, we go back and listen. I mean, there's just, he had everything to live for. So, again, I'll kick it back to you. All of them have weird evidence, inconsistencies, but some kind of common denominators of just oddness. Or just things that just don't add up.
If I was in the position where I could wave my magic wand and I could do anything I'd want, I would want to conduct for lack of a better term, a social experiment from on the weekends, because this is happening Thursday to Saturday night.
Right.
So on the weekends, Thursday to Saturday, give me 2 mounted PD officers from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. and 2 bicycles going up and down that mile for 1 year. And let's see how many people float up.
Yeah. So what does that tell you?
And if the number's low, you got a killer.
Right, because some people, I'll post this and they'll be like, well, it hadn't happened in, 3 or 4 months. Okay. It's not summertime yet. We just got past it, and they did find a female recently, and it just, I mean,
which is odd.
That's
the vast majority have been men.
Right.
Vast majority.
But that kind of, I think that was truly, she was a transgender or something. And I mean, that just kind of happened. Yeah, summer's not over. It's just starting. And so, again, and then we'll wrap up. would you say that there's a serial something? Or
100% there's a serial something. That you can't have the results in as many people as we have looked at, whether it's a serial drugging, let's say with this social experiment that I'd like to do, you're still going to have people going down there, and the cops catch them and go, get away from the water. Or they fall in, the cops save their lives, and they go, hey, it's worth being down here. But if all of a sudden it just drops to nothing, then you've got a serial killer. You've got somebody that's a thrill killer. And what's the best way to destroy evidence?
Put them in water.
Put them in the water.
And it just kind of gives you that alibi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just...
Well, when you've got 3,000 across the country and 99.78% of them are classified as accidental drownings, the minuscule amount that are classified as non-accidental are like everybody around the country remembers the mom who had postpartum and drowned her 5 kids in the bathtub.
Smith or something?
Yeah, something like that in Houston, yeah.
Right.
And, there's another mother that had a boyfriend that rolled her kids off in the lake and confessed to it, that she was attacked by a black man. And, it turned out she was trying to get rid of her kids because the boyfriend didn't want children. But without a confession or without a suspect or without every time somebody floats, the happy face killer. Right. They had people back in the 70s floating up right and left, and right next to them somewhere, somebody's painted a happy face.
Well, I would have to say that you make a good point. And the killings that happened, I believe, kind of on the Jersey Shore out there, and until you had somebody who says, damn it, find my daughter. And then they look for her, and they find one body, and then another, and another, and another, and they're like, well, and they've been there for years that they tie back to missing person case. Yeah. And so, and we'll wrap it up here. What is it going to take for somebody, for the APD to get serious and start to investigate it, or maybe do your experiment? I mean, I think it will continue to happen like this, wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah. Until
you get serious.
Well, you've also got to consider that one block of Rainey Street generates about $3 billion a year. $1 billion a year.
There's no doubt that it's financially motivated. I mean, accidental drowning, serial killer. Yeah. It's bad for business.
It's bad for business. There we go.
Really bad for business, and it's bad PR.
If I were to donate a couple of million a year to the police fund and say, man, I sure hope you don't use that word serial killer. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but we've all seen, people walk for crimes because they had the money.
Well, Mike, I great work.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I think that hopefully we don't have, a couple months period of time. I mean, these things, you get a lot, and then you got to kind of let it simmer, then you get it a lot. I mean, that's why crime docs take a few years sometimes. Yeah. I mean, you just got to keep on working the case. Hey, I appreciate you coming, man. And so
I love being here.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, thanks for listening and joining, and we'll have more.
We've got more coming.
All right.